welcome to this night departure coming out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. We'll be bound for Tulsa, Oklahoma. We'll be coming back in Friday night storms. Get some power going here. We'll get some ground power. Try to get this flight set up. Kind of what I got to go through. So let's get FMC. We've already set our origin. KSAN, destination KTUL, flight numbers XOJ0110. We'll go route menu, company route list. There's our flight plan already entered. Execute it. A few little things we got to do inside the flight plan. We'll go to legs. Look like it took right. Well, that's okay. We'll come over here. Let's see, departure. We'll set that in a minute. B. All right. We'll set departure here shortly. What we're going to do on takeoff. Okay. So first thing we do is make sure we got the proper amount of fuel. We're going to come over to charge. Bring up our flight plan. Come in here. Check how much fuel we need. Block fuel's 4767, so let's go in and set that. Check. Okay, should be enough fuel to get us there. Let's check check her weight. That's page 3. Payload 1.9. So we're at 30,417. Let's get over to, let's see, ATIS 12855. Set COM 1 128.55.
COM 1 set to 138.45.
COM 1 128.55.
COM 1 set to 128.55. Santa Fe Muni Information Sierra 000 Zulu weather. Wind calm, visibility more than 10. Sky clear, temperature 2, dew point 0. Altimeter 2992. Arriving runways
Altimeter
02,
2992.
33, departing runways 02, 33. Advise on initial contact you have Sierra. Altimeter 2992.
Alright, so we're going to opt for runway 33.
Santa Fe Muni Information Sierra 000 Zulu weather. Wind calm, visibility more than 10. Sky clear, temperature 2, dew point 0. Altimeter 2992. Arriving runways 02, 33.
Okay. Internet's a little slow tonight. Okay. So runway 33, we're not going to do a SID because we can't pull one up. Come on, internet. Okay, so let's go back home. Go to charts. I've already got fuel, thank you. Yep, TAFO Y2. So we'll enter that, execute it. Alright. File a flight plan. And we're Bombardier. Challenger 300. Flight number XOJ for XOJ. Oh, sorry. It wants the number, so it's going to be 0110. Departure KTUL. 45,000. That's our altitude. FTI. Space rolls. Space KTUL. 36 right. So, go here to KTUL arrival. We're going to come in on 36 right, as far as I know. So, of course, we'll want to do the RNAV. We'll go with the Veneta. RNAV 36 right, and that's subject to change. Of course, we'll probably get vectors. Okay, go through the flight plan. We'll look at the legs. We're going to climb. Cruise altitude. FL 450. Descent, all that looks okay. So back to legs. Let's got our speeds up to FTI. Let's hit that at, don't know. So we'll just go with takeoff. We're at 6,700. So SAF 250 knot up to 10,000. Transition 18,000. So we'll climb 45. There's a discontinuity. Discontinuity, however you say it. So what we do is we select the one below it, then lay it there, and then hit execute. We don't want those. And go back, start over, run through it. There's one there. Clear that. That one. Start over. Alright, we'll go work. Let's see, we want Venta. Bicep. Filed. Bring our comms back on. Of course, we hang that right there. And request altimeter.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, Santa Fe Munich, altimeter 2992.
Santa Fe Muni, altimeter 2992, Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo.
Hopefully we'll get charts on this flight. No, we'll wing it. Okay. Altitude 45,000.
Altitude 44,000 feet.
Altitude 45,000.
Altitude 45,000 feet.
Okay. So we can run through our checklist. So we'll come over here. Let's get the APU going. So we're going to turn off ground power. Yeah. There we go. Alright. Battery on, battery on. APU's firing up. Checklist, document safety equipment, switches, CBS, gear handle down, check, left and right hydraulic pumps off, check, air source off, system instrument standby switch on, check, left battery on, right battery on, CAS, everything looks okay there. We need nav light on. Bring the beacon on. Seat belts on. Left and right fuel pumps auto. That's check, check. Electrics, okay. Left and right bleeds off. Check. APU's on. Cross bleed open. Air source norm. Okay. We're going to set that to FMS. Okay, so let's check. So oxygen fuel quantity, standby instrument on, nose wheel steering on, the ice probes off, check. Emergency lights, check. Hydraulics on. Gas lock off. Okay. Check. Okay, engine start. Let's get clearance.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, cleared IFR2, Tulsa International, as filed. Maintain. Flight level 450, squawk 4701.
Squawk 4701.
Transponder set to 4701.
Cleared IFR2 Tulsa International as filed. Maintain flight level 450 squawk 4701 Challenger 300 9 Bravo Romeo.
Alright, ready for engine start. The fuel truck running through me again. Okay, engine start. Doors closed. Beacons on. Nav lights on. Chocks. Gas lock off. Thrust reversers idle. Engine run switches on. Okay. Igniter on. We got the fire up. Seat checker on. Check. Okay, number 2. Fix my hair. Okay. Finish the checklist. All that's been checked and set. Okay, so we got our ref speeds are already taken care of. I've got a Lua file in there that sets these automatically for departure and landings. So we just want to go through and make sure our minimum is set to 200. Once we get there, we're going to wish we didn't. Don't want to be stormy. We love that stuff. Okay, range is 10 mile. Go on the 5-mile trek. Start. After start, windshield heats. Check. Flaps 10.
Flaps down to 10 degrees.
Hydraulics checked. Flight and ground spoilers. Go to the flight page.
3, X-ray, Sierra,
Check
cleared
spoilers.
IFR2, 4 corners
Check.
RGNL, as filed. Maintain.
Left.
16,000,
Right.
squawk 4702.
Yeah,
Cleared IFR2
up,
4 corners RGNL
left
as
rudder.
filed. Maintain
Right rudder.
16,000 squawk 4702
Trim's
3
good.
X-ray Sierra.
The checklist.
3, X-ray, Sierra, runway.
Trims.
2, taxi via Alpha, Delta, hold short of runway.
Radar
3,
terrain.
Runway 2 taxi climb Alpha Delta hold short of
Radar's
runway
on terrain.
3 X-ray Sierra.
Anti-ice panel. Temps 2 degrees. As soon as we get lifted off, we'll probably bring on anti-ice. Cast checked. X-bleed open. Power brake on. It's up. Okay. That's it. Check, 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 check. Alright, taxi, fuel balance. It's good. Fuel balance, thrust reverse, engine, instruments and bugs, flaps set for takeoff.
Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo, runway 2, taxi line Alpha, Delta, hold short runway 33.
Runway 2, taxi line Alpha, Delta, hold short of runway 33, Challenger 309.
Taxi
Bravo,
lights on.
Romeo.
Taxi lights on.
Close the curtain. We're ready for a night flight. Parking brakes off. Let's roll.
X-ray, Sierra, contact tower on 119.50.
Contact tower on 119.503, X-ray, Sierra.
Approaching 28.
We're gonna hold.
Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo, contact tower on 119.50.
Contact tower on 119.50, Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo. Tower, Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo.
Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo, cross runway 33, hold short of runway 2.
Cross runway 33, hold short of runway 2, Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo.
Approaching 33.
Alright, so this yellow line, when you have ATC on and you use Departure Wizard, it marks the taxiways you need to be on, which is a nice feature. Strange airports makes life easier instead of getting lost.
X-ray, Sierra, fly heading 020, runway 2, you're cleared for takeoff.
Fly heading 020, runway 23, X-ray, Sierra.
Following that guy right there. So we're real world time and we're real world weather. As long as the internet's got it. Here before takeoff and I'll double check weather, make sure it loaded up. Gotta have some turbulence if we can get them. Looks like we're on an elevation up here. Those lights are sunk down over there. That's pretty cool. You never know what you're gonna see in this thing. It's just awesome. That's our hold short right here. That's as far as we can go at the moment.
Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo, fly heading 020, runway 2, you're cleared for takeoff.
Fly heading 020, runway 2, Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo.
Runway 2, we requested 3, so let's go back to departure.
3, X-ray, Sierra, contact center on 127.85.
Contact center on 127.853 X-ray Sierra.
Okay. Still looks good. Okay. Not a problem. Learning. Alright, so we'll check the weather real quick, make sure we can get it uploaded. It's not letting me. What's wrong with the internet again? Okay, well, we're fine. Alright, so strobe lights on. Beep. Boop. Taxi off. Landing lights on. Go to takeoff. There it goes. Set our heading bug.
Tower 172-2 Sierra Papa.
172, 2, Sierra, Papa, cross runway, 3, hold short of runway, 2,
Cross runway.
Approaching
3,
0,
hold short of
2.
runway 2, 172-2 Sierra Papa.
On runway 0, 2.
Correct runway. Sync heading bug.
Heading 027 degrees.
Okay, last check. Nav mode is nav source FMS1 check. Speed bug 250.
Speed 250 knots.
Hammer. Our probes on. Let's see. Yep, probes. Jump. Transponder on.
Transponder is on.
Check. CAS, okay. Cross bleeds open, good to go. After takeoff check standing by. Here we go. 45. No problemos. APR, back to takeoff. Set. Airspeed alive. 80 knot.
172, 2, Sierra, Papa, 2, line up and wait.
2,
V1,
line up and wait.
rotate.
172-2 Sierra Papa.
Positive right, gear up.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, contact center on 127.85.
Contact center on 127.85 Challenger 309 Bravo Romeo. Center Challenger 309 Bravo Romeo.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo,
Climb.
Romeo, Santa Fe Munich, altimeter 2999. MD82, 2, Alpha, resume on navigation.
Resume on navigation MD82 2 Alpha.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, fly heading 120.
Fly heading 120 Challenger 309 Bravo Romeo.
Heading 120.
Heading 120 degrees.
Heading mode.
Heading hold on.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, fly heading 120.
Heading 120.
Heading bug already set to 120 degrees.
Fly heading 120 Challenger 309 Bravo Romeo.
Flaps up.
Flaps going up all the way.
cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude,
Altitude
cabin
8,000.
altitude,
Altitude
cabin
8,000
altitude,
feet.
cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin
Center,
altitude,
172,
cabin
2 Sierra,
altitude,
Papa.
cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin
172,
altitude,
2
cabin
Sierra, Papa,
altitude,
Santa Fe
cabin
Munich, altimeter
altitude,
2999.
cabin altitude, cabin
Sandor Bay
altitude,
Munich,
cabin
altimeter
altitude,
2999,
cabin altitude,
172,
cabin
2
altitude,
Sierra,
cabin
Papa.
altitude, cabin 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 altitude,
Challenger
Hector.
300,
cabin
9,
altitude,
Bravo,
cabin
Romeo, climb and
altitude,
maintain,
cabin
flight level
altitude,
450.
cabin altitude, cabin
Climb and
altitude,
maintain.
cabin
Flight
That is
level
used.
450.
altitude,
Challenger
cabin
300.
altitude,
9
cabin
Bravo Romeo.
altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude,
Challenger
cabin
300,
altitude,
9,
cabin
Bravo, Romeo,
altitude,
fly heading
cabin
080.
altitude, cabin altitude, cabin
Heading
altitude,
080.
cabin altitude,
Heading
cabin
080
altitude,
degrees.
cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude,
MD-82,
cabin
2
altitude,
Alpha, Alpha,
cabin
fly heading
altitude,
140.
cabin altitude,
Fly heading
cabin
140.
altitude,
MD-82, 2
cabin
Alpha, Alpha.
altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude,
Challenger
cabin
300,
altitude,
9, Bravo,
cabin
Romeo,
altitude,
climb and maintain,
cabin
flight level
altitude,
450.
cabin altitude, 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 cabin altitude,
Climb and maintain.
cabin
Flight
altitude,
level
cabin
450.
altitude,
Challenger
cabin
300.
altitude,
9
cabin
Bravo
altitude,
Romeo.
cabin altitude, 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 cabin
Challenger
altitude,
300,
cabin
9,
altitude,
Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain, flight level 450.
cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude,
172, 2 Sierra, Papa, fly heading 290.
cabin altitude,
Fly heading 290. 172. 2 Sierra, Papa.
MD-82, 2 Alpha, Alpha, climb and maintain, flight level 350.
terrain, too
Climb
low
and maintain.
terrain,
Flight level
Too low
350.
Altitude
MD-82,
9,000.
2 Alpha,
Altitude
Alpha.
9,000 feet.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain, flight level 450. MD-82, 2 Alpha, Alpha, fly heading 090.
Fly heading 090. MD-82, 2 Alpha, Alpha. Climb and maintain. Flight level 450. Challenger 300. 9 Bravo Romeo.
MD-82, 2 Alpha, Alpha, climb
See
and
if I
maintain,
can solve
flight
this
level
issue.
350.
Climb and maintain. Flight level 350. MD-82, 2 Alpha, Alpha.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain, flight level 450.
Give me a chance.
Climb and maintain. Flight level 450. Challenger 300. 9 Bravo Romeo.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain, flight level 450.
Altitude 10,000.
Altitude 10,000 feet.
Vertical speed.
Vertical speed on.
Vertical speed 1500. Set vertical speed 1500.
Vertical speed set to 1,000 feet per minute.
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain, flight level 450.
Climb and maintain. Flight level 450. Challenger 300. 9 Bravo Romeo.
Cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude.
Altitude 9,000.
Altitude 9,000 feet.
Cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude.
Vertical speed.
Vertical speed on.
Altitude, cabin altitude.
Set vertical speed minus 1,500.
Vertical speed set to minus 1,500 feet per minute.
Cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin cabin altitude, 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 cabin altitude.
Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain. Flight level 450.
Too low, terrain.
Caution terrain. Caution terrain.
Climb and maintain. Flight level 450. Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo.
Caution terrain.
Too low, terrain.
Caution terrain.
Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too
Caution
low,
terrain.
terrain. Too
Caution
low,
terrain.
terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain. Too low, terrain.
Terrain.
Too low, terrain.
Pull up. Terrain.
Cabin altitude, cabin altitude,
Too low,
cabin
terrain.
altitude, cabin
Too low,
altitude,
terrain.
cabin altitude,
Pull up.
cabin altitude,
Terrain,
cabin
terrain.
altitude, cabin
Pull up.
altitude, cabin 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 altitude.
Well, this
cabin
sucks. I
altitude,
had this problem
cabin
before and I
altitude,
couldn't fix it. At
cabin
least I missed the
altitude,
mountain.
Cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin
Too low,
altitude,
terrain.
cabin altitude, 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 cabin
Good thing.
altitude, cabin 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 altitude,
Sync rate,
cabin
sync
altitude,
rate, sync
cabin
rate,
altitude,
sync rate,
cabin
sync rate,
altitude,
sync rate.
cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude,
MD-82,
cabin
2,
altitude,
Alpha, Alpha,
cabin
resume on
altitude,
navigation.
cabin altitude,
Resume
cabin
on navigation,
altitude, cabin
MD-82,
altitude,
2, Alpha,
cabin
Alpha.
altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude,
Challenger
cabin
309,
altitude,
Bravo,
cabin
Romeo, climb and
altitude,
maintain.
cabin
Flight level
altitude,
450.
cabin altitude, cabin altitude.
Climb and maintain. Flight level 450. Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo.
3, X-ray, Sierra, fly heading 1,
Heading
2,
060.
Heading
Flight
060
heading
degrees.
120, 3, X-ray, Sierra.
172, 2, Sierra, Papa, Las Vegas, Munich, altimeter 2996.
Las Vegas, meaning altimeter 2996, 172, 2, Sierra, Papa.
Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain. Flight level 450. 3, X-ray, Sierra, fly heading 120.
Fly heading 1203, X-ray, Sierra.
Altitude 10,000.
Altitude 10,000 feet.
Vertical speed.
Vertical speed on.
Try it again.
Challenger 309,
Not gonna happen.
Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain. Flight level 450.
Trying to.
Climb and maintain. Flight level 450.
Cabin pressurization
Challenger
problems.
309, Bravo, Romeo.
Cabin altitude,
Dang it.
cabin altitude, 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 cabin altitude,
Altitude
cabin
9,000.
altitude,
Altitude
cabin
9,000
altitude,
feet.
cabin altitude, 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 cabin altitude,
Vertical
cabin
speed.
altitude,
Vertical
cabin
speed on.
altitude, cabin 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 altitude.
Challenger 309, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain. Flight level 450. Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain, flight level 450.
Heading 090.
Heading 090 degrees.
Heading 100.
Heading 100 degrees.
Okay, big
Challenger
troubles.
300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, resume on navigation. Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain, flight level 450.
I'm trying.
Climb and maintain. Flight level 450. Challenger 300. 9, Bravo, Romeo.
Altitude 10,000.
Challenger
Altitude
300,
10,000
9,
feet.
Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain, flight level 450.
Vertical speed.
Vertical speed on.
Heading 085. Heading 085.
Heading 085 degrees.
Cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude, cabin altitude.
Challenger
cabin
300,
altitude,
9, Bravo,
cabin
Romeo,
altitude,
Las Vegas
cabin
meeting, altimeter
altitude,
2996.
cabin altitude, cabin altitude,
Altimeter
cabin
2996.
cabin altitude,
Altimeter
Las Vegas
2996.
meeting. Altimeter
altitude,
2996.
altitude
Challenger
9,000.
300.
Altitude
9, Bravo,
9,000 feet.
Romeo.
Cabin altitude.
Vertical speed.
Cabin altitude.
Vertical speed
cabin
on.
Altitude. Cabin 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 altitude.
Heading
cabin
070.
altitude, cabin
Heading
altitude,
070
cabin
degrees.
altitude, Cabin altitude. 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 Cabin
Challenger 300, 9, Bravo, Romeo, climb and maintain, flight level 450.
Frustrating.